Appalachian lore tells eerie stories of the paranormal in the eastern United States. Between cryptid encounters and extraterrestrial experiences, it's clear that the area is a hotspot for the unknown. Today's topic is no different. Let's discuss the encounter of the Flatwoods Monster. This is Red Web. Welcome back, Task Force, to another episode of Red Web, the podcast all about unsolved mysteries, true crime, and the paranormal. I am your resident mystery lover, Trevor Collins, and joining me hearing this mystery for the very first time, Alfredo Diaz.
Ooh, I am excited. We're talking some kind of monster or cryptid or something like that, and I'm all about it. My favorite type of movie genre is like those horror monsters. Big fan.
Ooh.
I love like seeing a group of people get together and figure out what it is and then finding out the lore and how to beat the thing, et cetera, et cetera. We should do one of those for like movie club next. Patreon.com/redweb. Very excited to hear about this. And like I was saying, I want to know, like, give me I want to know the strengths, the weaknesses. How can I beat this thing? Can I beat this thing? I'm excited.
Listen, we're going to break it down. I was Googling, I'll be honest with you, because I'm trying to find that movie that takes place in the German Black Forest with a bunch of hikers, that kind of
Ritual?
The Ritual, yes.
Bam.
Oh my God. That's one of my favorite cryptid topics.
Yeah, we should definitely watch that one.
Yeah. But yeah. Let's break down the Flatwoods Monster. There's a lot to go with it, but I do want to harken back to the hook a little bit because I've been talking with Jillian and Christian offline about this. The Appalachian lore, and because that's where we're at. We're in the heart of Western Virginia. And Fredo, you know, we're no strangers to Western Virginia, Pennsylvania. We got Squonk, Mothman, a lot of activity, among other things, obviously, more than just cryptids. There's stories of sounds in the night, eerie sounds, and some of those can be debunked. But I'm falling in love with the Appalachian lore and the creepiness of the stories that get passed down by generations in the area. But yeah, this is the Flatwoods Monster coming out of Flatwoods, West Virginia. But you did mention Patreon, and I want to give a huge shout out to our task force members over there on Patreon. Coming in at the Squonk tier level supporting this show, we have Brett O'Meara, Blake Herman, and Clint from PS3. It's a good gaming console, by the way. We also have our buff scientists, Ashley Nguyen and James Hill, and of course our lovely task force members such as Jeff, Lemonic, Lawson Barrett, and so many others. Again, it is the number one way to support this show is at patreon.com/redweb. As Fredo mentioned, we've got our exclusive podcast over there talking about horror movies, Movie Club. We also have bonus content, deleted scenes, behind the scenes stuff, and an ad-free version of this podcast, all to thank you for supporting this now independent show. But with that said, let's take it back to the 1950s. We're going way back for the Flatwoods Monster, Fredo. And you have not heard of the Flatwoods Monster at all?
No, not at all.
This is a very interesting one because it combines cryptid encounters with UFO experiences. This might be one of the first alien kind of cryptids we've got on the table. And the first cryptid we're discussing here in our new season 2. So, on the evening of September 12th, 1952, two brothers, Ed and Freddie May, were playing at Flatwoods Elementary School with their friend Tommy Heyer. Historically, the town of Flatwoods, West Virginia, has a population of only about 300 people. So we're talking about a very small town in this very kind of mountainous state. So they're kind of secluded and small.
Yeah, that's where everyone knows everybody.
Absolutely.
Everyone knows everybody's business.
You chuck a stone, you're going to hit somebody you know.
Yeah.
But we are back in West Virginia, and we're about 100 miles west of Point Pleasant. This is where Mothman was first spotted. And I also want to ground you in the timeline. Mothman and his first encounter was way over a decade later. That was 1966, and we're in 52.
Oh, okay.
So we'll get into it. You know me, I believe Mothman is a masked vigilante. I think he's a misunderstood hero. And we might be looking at an origin story here. I'm just going to put that out there. Now, around 7:15 p.m. that night, they saw a flash of red across the sky that appeared to land on a nearby farm. The boys went to investigate and stopped at Maze's home on the way to get their mom, Kathleen. She reached out to West Virginia National Guard member Eugene Lemon for assistance, and the group then walked towards this supposed crash site of whatever it was that flew through the air. And on their way, 2 other young boys joined them with their dog, and so now we kind of have this group of individuals that witnessed this event and are going to see what it is. The start of every good horror movie that features aliens, right?
Yeah.
What's that one with the like the parasite that takes over the human body? Like not splice. Something with an S.
Talk about The Faculty?
No. Oh my God, I forgot about that one.
I was like, you're definitely not, but I really want to say Faculty.
Was it Slither, right?
That one was gross.
I mean, it's very gross, but it starts off with something colliding into the ground. Some dude goes to see it, gets, I don't know, taken over by this alien slug, and then the town goes to crap. So coming back to the crash site, they arrived at what they believed to be the crash site, and it was on a hillside on G. Bailey Fisher's farm. Here the group found what they now described as a pulsing red light. So they saw that red light crash through the sky, disappear on the horizon. Now it's kind of pulsing on the hillside. Lemon saw what he thought to be a possum, but when he pointed his flashlight at it, the group was terrified and met with this strange being. The figure was about 10 feet tall, with blood red or blushing skin and claw-like hands. It had striking, glowing orange eyes and appeared to be wearing a metal dress or some form of cloak. Some of the witnesses claim that this dress was green in nature, but others claim that it didn't really have any color. Hard to tell, I'm sure, because it was at night and only lit up by a flashlight, but the creature seemed to be wearing on their head kind of a spade-shaped hood that they also described to see a face within that pointed hood-like shape. The spade being from like an ace of spades.
It sounded like some sort of alien.
It does sound very alien-esque. In fact,
light across the sky, etc. Like, this is an alien invasion.
100%. We got ourselves a 10-foot being from, Perseon 5.
Yeah, probably peaceful, but especially you landed in America, okay?
Right.
It's gonna be violence first.
I mean, questions later.
Questions later. This is dangerous.
I want to dig into something psychologically. You said probably peaceful.
Yeah.
What gives you that? I'm going to be very American about it. What gives you that feeling?
That's just because it's just such a polar opposite from, I would say human instinct to be violent.
Oh, 100%. No, absolutely.
And I'd like to think that, it's not always so bad. That maybe aliens do want to come over and explore and make peace and communicate as opposed to, like, invade.
True. I would love to believe that as well. They come in peace. They want to share their knowledge. Let's all have really cool iPhone 20s right now.
Yeah.
But I do have some images for you that kind of evoke what I'm describing. So if you want to click the first 2 images that we've provided, Task Force, as always, you can now see that in the video version of this podcast over at youtube.com/redwebpod, or as always, on our social media. We upload the images there. What do you think?
God's green earth is that?
That's what I'm talking about. It looks like Grandma's got big eyes and a hood.
It looks, I don't know, like low-key terrifying with the long sharp fingers, the very scrawny arms, the big round head with the big eyes. But also seems like it's something that you'd find at like a play or like a Tim Burton movie.
I can see that 100%. It feels very Tim Burton in art style.
We can only describe things in movies.
I know.
I mean, seriously.
Movies is our love language. I mean, if I blur my vision, and by that I mean I focus way past it or cross my eyes, I can kind of understand. This looks like a space nun. It's a member of the Bene Gesserit.
Yeah, it is. Just not as beautiful.
Just not as beautiful. But I can see how like the big head and hood shape, if I were trying to force something, might look like a spacesuit, like the helmet of a spacesuit. But so that's kind of some of the drawings of the time from the eyewitness experiences. Now, reportedly, in addition to what it looked like, this creature was supposedly floating or levitating off the ground in some manner. And Mrs. May told the Oakland Tribune that it was, quote, worse than Frankenstein. which, as a pause, as an aside, is the doctor, is the professor that made the monster. So I love it. It was worse than that man.
Yeah. It's worse than a man.
but I get what she's saying. I had to be a stickler.
Yeah, the Frankenstein's monster, Frankenstein.
Yeah. So Lemon told the same newspaper that the creature, quote, seemed to glow and started, quote, duck walking towards them. They also reported that it was metallic, acrid, and had a sickly smelling mist around the site, not just of the entity, but around the area. Now, I don't know what you're feeling. You're in the environment, it's late at night after 7 p.m., sun's starting to set, and you see this putrid, metallic, sickly smelling entity duck walking at you. What is your move?
Look, I don't care if that thing is like speaking English and saying peace. My response is, there is no peace here. Okay.
Whoa, what a 180.
If that thing looks like that, no, man. I don't. That's a debate if I've ever seen one. That's how I get captured, probed. They're throwing all kinds of things in my booty hole. Like, it's not happening. It's not going down that way. I ain't about to go out like that. I'm not about to get abducted, then come back and sit on this podcast and say that there's an experience. I don't want to talk about it. Like, it's just, I don't know. I know it. You shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but it's not a human. So already that's a hard leap. And then on top of that, it looks. Why you got such sharp, long fingers that look like they can cut someone? You know what I mean?
Right.
I feel like evolution has given you that because you have needed that and you have used that. So I'm thinking, you know what I mean? I'm trying to science this stuff out in my head.
I love to hear it. Those are snatching fingers right there.
Yeah.
Those are, you go to double drop kick this thing and it just grabs you and then opens its metallic belly and puts you in there. This is the moment where Task Force finds out who the fastest Red Web crew members are.
Yeah.
Because the slowest won't be there.
100%.
But anyway, it is a very interesting encounter. And I've heard of this before, but this is one of the few times where it wasn't just a one and done. But before we get there, I'm enamored by the fact that there were other sightings. But before we get there, I do want to come back to this original group because they had a very similar reaction to what you and I would have. They screamed and they immediately ran from the farm. I love the defense. I don't care what this thing is, I'm out. So Mrs. May and Lemon then reported what they saw immediately to the authorities. I appreciate that too. And they also then contacted the co-publisher of the Braxton County Democrat, A. Lee Stewart, who subsequently visited the crash site themselves and came with a group of armed individuals to protect themselves. And when they arrived, there was no creature, but according to, once again, the Oakland Tribune, quote, the odor was still there, warming and sickening. He also saw the marks in the ground that had a, as he described it, odd gummy deposit, according to 14 Times. Stewart later commissioned an artist to render out what they saw that night, the creature, based on May's description. And that's what became popular. Those are the images you're looking at right now. But whatever they saw that night obviously left them terrified and feeling sick as well. This is, again, one of those rare moments where something lingered, in this case, an illness. And it reminds me very much of the toxic woman case we discussed a long time ago. But for days after the incident, Mrs. May claimed that the group, not only herself, but the group had sore throats. And the website for the Braxton County, West Virginia area points out that these are symptoms of inhaling mustard gas. So I believe, Jillian, was it true that they were also vomiting, not just sore throats, like there were some other things happening?
Yeah. They were nauseous and vomiting, yeah.
Yeah.
Is this a case where there was mustard gas and someone had a very more stylized suit? You know what I mean? Or more advanced suit that just hasn't been known or seen, or just a makeshift one that looks so weird that it was oh, it's some kind of cryptid, some kind of monster.
What if it's the opposite of a scarecrow? It was some sort of nefarious villain chucking a humanoid mustard gas bomb into the wild and seeing if that would attract people in to see what it was, and then it would mustard gas them as some form of attack.
Interesting.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. You never know what's going on out there. I start
really
somewhat
don't.
as a joke, but I end kind of going,
yeah,
maybe. I don't know.
But maybe.
Yeah. Now, coming back to mustard gas, it is said to have a smell kind of like garlic, and it is also said that it can stay in the environment for up to 2 days, and that's according to the CDC. So that would, in some elements, kind of match with the eyewitness accounts, though garlic wasn't necessarily specified by the witnesses. So coming back to those other sightings I mentioned before, there are 2 known other sightings from around this time that might be connected to what became known as the Flatwoods Monster. One occurred just days before the May group sighting, though the exact date on that one is still unclear. While walking to the store in a nearby town of Heaters, West Virginia, Audra Harper and her friend cut through the forest to save some time. Once again, another classic opener for horror movies.
Yeah.
This was also just 3 miles north of Flatwoods, so really not that far away at all. So Harper, in describing this event, said she saw a, quote, ball of fire, which she at first ignored because she thought it might have something to do with the result of fox chasing, according to the Braxton County official site. And when I talked to Jillian about that and kind of looking into it in the research, we weren't exactly sure what she was referring to with like fox chasing or perhaps fox hunting, but I just wanted to kind of give her experience of the event. She kind of basically to say she saw a fireball and kind of thought it was just a standard event, maybe just like a flare, maybe something, nothing worth looking into essentially.
It's a random fireball?
I'm just saying, you know, you see a fireball, you got to say something.
That's what I'm saying. There's fire. I don't know, man. Fire that big, they're not cooking. They're doing something.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. Oh, there they go, chasing foxes again over there, I see.
Yeah, fire.
And Task Force, if you know anything about that, we would love it. You guys got such a huge hive mind of experience. We just couldn't find anything there. But when Harper eventually turned around, the fire had actually disappeared, and in its place was a dark figure. So now, of course, she can't ignore it. The 2 friends then ran home from that spot, later stating that they didn't get much more of a look at the creature. They just kind of saw the silhouette of it. And so this really opens the door to that kind of cryptomnesia, where did they see the same thing? Did they see something different? Will the later eyewitness accounts influence what they saw? It's hard to say, but it is a bit more ambiguous. Now moving forward to the night of September 13th. This was the day after the original May sighting. George and Edith Snitovsky and their baby were driving near Strange Creek, about 20 miles southwest of Flatwoods on Route 4. Now, as they're driving along, their car suddenly comes to a stop, completely dead. And again, I hate to say it, we're at the beginning of a horror movie right now. The Watchers, in fact. So they got out, they were attempting to restart the car with no success, and when they did, when they got out of the car, they were met with the smell of sulfur, and their baby immediately started crying, which to me is always reminiscent of the theory that babies are maybe more sensitive to the paranormal. They can sense these things more than adults who go, hoo-ha, that doesn't mean anything. I don't believe in that. So the baby starts crying. They have this acrid smell, this sulfur smell. And suddenly there's a bright light that flashes, and a 10-foot figure stood in front of the car. Almost, I think, Jillian, as if it like teleported there, this like very bright flash. Mm-hmm. I hate that. So when they look at this 10-foot being, they claimed it had a reptilian head, and the claws of this creature scraped their car. And this is where I was imploring Jillian to look closer to see if we could find any images of these scratches.
No, and also like this story, I could only really find information about it from Braxton County. Like, it's not a commonly told story, as I understand.
Which is always kind of a red flag, orange flag maybe for me on the validity, because you have word of mouth, things spread.
Yeah, but apparently he did tell, like, they told their story in a magazine called Mail Magazine in 1955.
Interesting.
But I didn't come across that magazine.
Like mail, like you get delivered mail, or mail is like only men read this magazine.
Only men read this magazine. Yeah.
Oh, really?
It's spelled like mail, like
M-A-L-E.
Yeah.
It's a magazine for men.
I gotta tell this story about a 10-foot being to my men.
Yeah, and I didn't find much else from anything else that didn't go right back to the Braxton website.
Yeah. Gotcha. Well, that's always worth noting. I mean, when the resources are slim, you're starting to put a lot of I mean, they all kind of refer back to one another. There's always going to be an origin of something. So I don't want to like discredit too much, but it's just something I think about when I approach the validity of a story or the theories of it all, or my personal opinion on it all. But either way, coming back to the Snitovskys, the thing was scraping their car, looking very ominous, reptilian in fact, and then floated away. And their car, as it floats away, suddenly starts. And this feels to me like EMP-like behavior. An EMP being an electromagnetic pulse that can disrupt technologies.
But it'd be like some type of, I don't know, because like an EMP, it'll knock it out, right? Doesn't it? And then doesn't the electronic stay knocked out at
It's
that
like
point?
fried, is my
it's
understanding.
fried. Yeah, it fries the circuits. This is more like it stunned or put electronics in a holding pattern and then released it.
That is a great observation, because that is a little bit atypical. Again, Task Force, you've got a lot of buff, super strong minds out there. I would love to know kind of your take on it. We have a Discord. If you join our Patreon, you'll be able to access that. We theorize over there all the time, but that's a very good point. And so part of me, and this is where I get a little sci-fi, this is where I get a little theoretical, but I'm almost curious, if you take it at face value, and this is some sort of cryptid or extraterrestrial being, and there's wireless energy in play, is it sucking up the energy from the car because it doesn't really determine where it's taking it from? It just took it from this car. And so when it left, the aura of electromagnetic suck, the EMS we call, dissipated. And so the car could come back on. I don't know.
I was initially thinking that's some hyper advanced technology, but it could also be a biological thing depending on the structure and the molecular level of the monster / being. It seems very alien-like to me.
Very alien vibes happening right now, for sure. Man, I love just freewheeling the theories though.
I know.
Because and that's I mean, we're in squonk territory, so you know it's going to happen. You know, Pennsylvania's just we don't throw stones in West Virginia, but it's a stone throw up north, okay? But as we kind of dissect our own theories, let's talk about some of the popular ones. Of course, the first one being that this is a cryptid. This is kind of, despite it feeling very UFO and alien-esque, the cryptid theory is one of the common ones. That it's a monster living in the Flatwoods area, especially in the Appalachians. And the fact that multiple people saw it in the area over the course of a couple days kind of lends credence to that idea. Because usually UFOs tend to be like a one and done sort of thing. One mass sighting or one small sighting and then kind of done. West Virginia, of course, also seems the home to many cryptids. You got Mothman. Some Bigfoot sightings have escaped the Pacific Northwest and have made it over to anywhere there's forest. There's going to be Bigfoot. And then there's other ones that Jillian found. The Sheep Squatch, the Snarly Yow, the Grafton Monster, and Bat Boy. These are all amazing superheroes.
I'm sorry, what?
These are the East Coast Avengers, I think.
Also, why are they coming up with so many damn cryptids? Like, they went buck wild with these cryptids over here and seeing what sticks.
It's their home.
They're trying to like corner the market on cryptids.
I think there might be a hole to the hollow earth happening here, and we just gotta wait for Kong to come crawling up out of there.
God, then I don't want to know a hollow earth at all. If all kinds of weird stuff's coming out of it like that.
I mean, it is very interesting that this is such a hot spot for cryptids. I can't ignore that, and I'm deeply fascinated by it. I'm wondering if there's something like psychological, like the storytelling of it all, or if there really is just something that we're still yet to understand in that area. But Jillian also noted that there's an extensive Appalachian region that is filled with a variety of plants and animals, and so it's possible that there simply are just more creatures in some of the more remote areas of the Appalachian mountains that we just haven't discovered everything. It's not as vast and as wild as the Amazon, of course, but there are pretty far removed spots.
That makes sense. Because I was like, I mean, I'm bad with geography, so I have no idea what the landscape of what Virginia is for the most part. But I mean, if you have miles and miles of unmanned territory, right, or just wilderness, then yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Amazon's scary in its own regard because they're discovering all kinds of bugs and creatures every other day.
Oh my God.
And it's I don't know, man. I feel like I honestly think it's equally terrifying, a little side tangent, to what, like, you'd have to pay me to walk a mile into the Amazon. Like a mile, like a solid mile. Like you are guaranteed safe. People are watching you.
Okay. Okay.
But you have to walk that mile through like the thick shrubbery. All like I'm gonna get bit by 5 different snakes, spiders. It's Jillian.
Okay, so the Appalachian region is really big, actually.
It's huge, yeah.
And West Virginia is the only state that's fully within it. So maybe that is part of why.
Oh.
That is a very good observation. Because
that is interesting.
broadly speaking, Fredo, just to help you out, it is like the Smoky Mountains of the east coast of the United States. Virginia is kind of like on a north-south kind of meter. Virginia itself is kind of right in the middle, more or less, on the East Coast. And then West Virginia is just north and west of it. But yeah, then it extends down. It actually goes farther down south than I expected, but it goes all the way down south into Alabama and over into Mississippi, and then comes all the way north up through Pennsylvania and into New York. So it's that band.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Still too much wilderness. People get lost there all the time, even without cryptids or serial killers or anything.
One twisted ankle out in the middle of nowhere, bad phone signal.
God.
Could be the end. But yeah, you go through the Amazon, you're going to come out with botfly bites, snake bites. You're going to find some sort of tree frog that kissed you wrong, and you get all sick from that.
Parasites and stuff.
Things
worms
that burrow
growing
into
in me.
you.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, no, pass. Hard pass. If I had one of those like bomb suits with like a hazmat suit within it, and then one of those like Jake Gyllenhaal Bubble Boy suits on the outside of it all.
Yeah, and I roll you in.
Yeah, and you roll me in, I might be able to handle it. This episode of Red Web is sponsored by Shopify. 10 seconds on the clock. How many things can you name in your life that are always growing? You got your relationship, your skills, your customer base. How about the business that you want to operate on Shopify? Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real life store stage, all the way to did we just hit 1 million orders stage? Shopify's there to help you grow all the way. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. From their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system, wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you absolutely covered. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout, 36% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms, and you can sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, their AI-powered all-star. I really enjoy shopping on Shopify. Our Red Web store used to be a Shopify experience, and so I loved how customizable it was and how easy it was for all of you to be able to get the Red Web product. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the United States, so you've probably used it before, and Shopify's the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning help is there to support your success every step of the way because businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial at shopify.com/redweb, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/redweb now to grow your business. No matter what stage you're in, they're going to help you out. Shopify.com/redweb. This episode of Red Web is sponsored by Cato's Coffee. Fredo, I know you. When I look at you, I say, this man is fueled by the bean. You love coffee?
Oh, I love me some coffee. I pour way too much creamer in it, but that's how I like my coffee.
Well, let me tell you, look no further than Cato's Coffee. That's a double K, Cato's Coffee, which offers a wide selection of roasts. They got single origins, blends, a lot more than just that too. They also offer K-Cups. They got whole bean bags or a variety of grinds. So no matter what you're looking for, they've got it. They got wholesale sizes too, so I know you gulp down by the gallon full, I assume. And so you're looking for the wholesale sizes of these bags.
Look, I don't want to run out and then go without having coffee, okay? If I know I'm going to drink it, which I will, I might as well stock up.
I'll be honest, I ran out the other day and I was helpless.
That's what I'm saying. I don't want to be you, Trevor. I don't want to be Trevor, helpless, searching cabinets for grains of coffee.
I just got to get the buzz, I'm waking up. But if you're interested in more than just coffee, they have that too. And Fredo, I know you. I watch you through the windows. I also see you sipping that loose leaf tea, and they've got loose leaf teas curated for you to choose from.
Wait, what?
Oh, the window thing? Don't worry about it. So if you like tea, they also have you covered there. And what if you want some physical goods to rep your love of Cato's? Well, good news. They also have a range of Cato's merch. Now, you might be wondering where the name Cato comes from. The company was started in honor of their CEO's bull terrier, and I love a good story, and I love dogs. So the fact that Cato grew up on a farm, has been kidnapped 3 times with successful recovery every time, all tells this amazing story of how the puppy then retired to the life of luxury and safety with his owner. And to honor Cato and this beautiful pup and his story, Cato's Coffee aims to donate a portion of all their profits to help local animal shelters and the environment. I love that. I love a good story, and I love me some animals.
I have 2 dogs, so I love that so much.
I think that speaks to my heart a little bit. So I love a product that can not only help me wake up, I just love coffee, but also that does good in the world. In fact, when I ran out, I was grateful to have received a bag of Cato's coffee that very same day so I could grind the bean down and wake myself up. It was a tasty cup of coffee, and I love the fact that they have so many different varieties. So even if you're basic like me, just looking for the vanilla or caramel flavors, they've got you covered. But they also have all these other flavors and roast types, so you can explore different coffees that you might not be brave enough to do at the premium coffee shops where they're going to charge you an arm and a leg. No, you can get yourself a good bag of Cato's coffee delivered right to your house. So if that sounds interesting to you, go to www.catoscoffee.com. That's KATOS, KOFFEE, double K in there, and use promo code REDWEB10, REDWEB10, to get 10% off your order and find something that suits your taste today. Whether it's your taste buds or your taste in fashion, Cato's has something for everyone. Now, of course, cryptid is one of the more loud ones, but let's move on now to like the alien theory, because I agree with you. This is kind of, it feels a little bit more extraterrestrial, especially given the red light that crashed in, the fireball, the kind of teleporting, it seems like the hovering, all of it screams.
Yeah, the reaction
science
to technology and stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So some believe in this regard that the odd smell and the strange substance, that kind of goo that was left behind found by Stewart, was actually fuel for a UFO, an unidentified flying object. And that the marks that they found in the ground actually came from the ship kind of landing and settling in. That's one of my favorite parts about the UAP UFO stories, is that when people see things and it lands, that there's lingering symptoms, dents in the ground, smell, radiation. That part to me is super intriguing and makes me go, well, something was here. What was it?
Yeah, it makes you think that they're using chemicals. I don't know, either the chemical compounds, either that we just haven't mixed together or just don't have access to. And although powerful, does leave this type of like residue.
Yeah, no, I can see that 100%. And I mean, maybe I got to retract my earlier theory on the reverse scarecrow. Maybe this is a human scarecrow. And it just kind of hovers around, spritzes out little like funky smells like a skunk and says, "Stay off my farm." Now, local writer Gray Barker, who later helped introduce the concept of the Men in Black, who we've talked about at length, visited Flatwoods to then investigate the monster himself. He interviewed the children and asked them to draw what they saw that night, and I have those drawings for you as the third image. I'll let you kind of react to those, see how they relate to the other graphic designs.
Whoa, the one on the left has like a cookie head.
Yeah, it's kind of like the cone heads.
Usually
you ever
there's
see
circles.
That movie?
Yeah, they got cone heads,
Mm-hmm.
and then they still got the round eyes, not as big, round faces. One of the guys, or one of their faces, is like it's like a little wavy. It's a circle, but the line isn't just a straight round line. It's kind of wavy.
That's actually a really good observation. It kind of gives it a texture.
Yeah, the one in the middle has a bigger cone, like head / backing. So I don't know if that is like the chosen one or their leader, but there's definitely a difference in the cone sizes.
Yeah. So these are 3 separate drawings from 3 separate kids that they then put together in one image.
Okay,
And so,
there you go.
so I think it's just a difference of proportion in their memory. But it almost looks like, to me, stick figures with their arms up, kind of like YMCA style.
Oh my God, I see that now. Now that's all I can see.
If I was trying to look like a 10-foot tall monster from the Mesozoic era, I'd probably stick my hands up and start duck walking at somebody.
I mean,
you know what I mean?
It's right. Like, I'm gonna go basketball here. They're like Kevin Durant right now. They got the
Yeah.
super long arms, and now they're just putting them up, and it looks like they got like some kind of spade head, but it's just their arms in the air.
Mm-hmm. And after a hard basketball game, you're going to have a little BO on you.
Yeah, you're gonna have.
Might-
Yep, there you go.
might have some area
All
stink.
links back together, baby.
So this was, I think, Michael Jordan returning from his time in Space Jam.
Yeah,
He's the fireball
yeah.
that landed back in the plane.
I can't believe you found a way to bring it into basketball and a movie. That was amazing.
Woo! Shout out to the Celtics. Okay, so he's talking to these kids and they are drawing what they saw that night. And what's very interesting is that they didn't do this next to one another. He actually published these drawings, by the way, in a magazine called Fate. So they did get published and everything. And he notices that aside from the small and minor differences that you notated, right? The difference in proportion, one of the faces being rougher than the others, it's kind of compelling to him that they are so similar. And to him, it indicates some level of authenticity, but we'll talk about that specific idea later on in the theories. West Virginia storyteller Jason Burns told local news source WBOY, quote, apparently the US government sent some men, quote, men in black, to their house who investigated the sighting, took down their witness reports, which apparently all of them were the same. Mrs. May got some of the oil on her dress that night from the ship and they took the dress. They said they would return it and they never did. End quote. Reportedly, Barker was told that these investigators were also posing as magazine writers. Basically, we've talked about a lot of cases. We talked about Project Blue Book that we're going to get into in a second. And I wouldn't put it past the government to issue some sort of secret group to come investigate and then try to keep it hush. That is totally grounded in reality.
Yeah.
I would totally believe that. I don't know if that offers validity to the extraterrestrial nature or if it's more that they're just going, we need to figure out if this
Right.
was us, a neighbor, a citizen, an enemy, an alien.
Yeah, that's not too unbelievable at all. I'm sure the government has some sort of division and some hangar at some type of secret facility, and their whole thing is to check things out. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's like, hey, what are we doing today? Oh, we're checking that out. What do we got scheduled next week? We're checking this out.
Now, coming back to Barker, like I mentioned, he kind of popularized, or introduced, I should say, the concept of the Men in Black. And while he is known for writing about UFOs, he was also a skeptic about this particular theory. And he theorized that the Flatwoods Monster might have simply just been a person in a costume. And it always reminds me of Fredo. When I show him one of these drawings, he goes, that's a man in a suit.
That's just a man.
So the same year as the Flatwoods Monster, in 1952, the US was experiencing a rise in UFO sightings. In fact, that July, UFOs were seen spotted over the White House. And now I come back to my reveal of Project Blue Book because I'm low-key obsessed with it. They were also very active during this time period. In fact, they began this whole effort of Project Blue Book began in March of 1952, that very same year. And reportedly, there was a Project Blue Book investigation on this particular sighting. I don't know how that went. Jillian, do you know how that kind of turned up?
I couldn't find much information on it besides them talking about the meteor.
Okay. So they at least it's rumored to be that they investigated it, but otherwise it's probably classified or just nothing came of it.
Yeah, as far as I know.
Okay. And task force members, if you're new, we've talked about Project Blue Book a few times, but essentially it was a secretive study of UFOs that was sponsored by and led by the US Air Force. They were active from 1952 until December of 1969. Coincidentally, the same year that we landed on the moon, but it's a very interesting decade and a half, a little longer, of research on UAP and UFO sightings across America. And anytime we've talked about this in the past, they invariably come up, whether it be the Men in Black, secret agents showing up at houses, or what have you. PBB is around these events.
I fully believe, yeah, there's some, if some weird stuff happened to us, 100% there's going to be people from the government knocking at our door, asking us questions, taking stuff that they feel like is necessary for their investigation. I fully believe that.
Yeah.
I mean, a big part of me too is like that's how it should be in a way. Just because
Sure.
I don't know, I come across some kind of slime monster, some spectral entity, alien or whatnot. I'm not qualified to deal with that. And even if there's people invading privacy or whatnot. There's some like comfort in knowing that like someone's acknowledging like the thing that I saw. Someone is at least actively trying to look into it.
You feel very valid, yeah, because otherwise you could be did I see something?
Yeah, will my privacy be violated? All that. But I mean, like I'm on the internet, you know what I mean? Like I have gadgets everywhere with microphones and cameras. Like that's.
Yeah, but those are for me. Stop listening.
Yeah.
I also think that even if it's something relatively mundane, like a new species, they're going to handle it with care. So misinformation doesn't go spiraling out. And then if they prove it, and it is some new species of some kind, they unveil it. And they probably tell the story of how somebody stumbled into it and now it's named after them or what have you. And that kind of stuff happens all the time. It's just the times that they either A, don't come to any sort of conclusion because nothing really happened or it was a mundane event, or B, it is something classified. It is something that might inspire fear in the broad populace that they then, we're going to be cagey about it.
Yeah.
So like, I don't fault anybody for kind of approaching this with secrecy to investigate, but suffice to say, nothing really came from it. But all this said, it's compelling, just how many strange sightings have happened in West Virginia. Again, we've talked about like the Appalachian cryptids and stories. I feel like lately that's been on the rise, at least for me. It's been heavy in my social media feed where I'm hearing stories or seeing videos of people, and you can debunk a lot of them, but I still love the lore of it. I still love the potential of it. I just love a good ghost story, as it were. But I do think that this is the inciting event that led to what became of Mothman. Some poor kid probably had this moth-centric experience. This thing looks like a wingless moth and 10 feet tall. And he decided to move to Point Pleasant and say, you know what? I'm a grown man now. Mothman begins, and I'm going to protect this tiny town.
I'm here to protect and to serve.
That leads us into what is meatier than I would have thought, the third theory. And this is not the reason why we picked this topic. This is just serendipity at its finest. One of the leading theories for the Flatwoods Monster is that the group actually saw an owl. I know.
How big is this owl?
We might have a Bigfoot owl.
It's like 10 feet. Didn't we talk about like 10 feet or something like that?
Yeah, 10 feet tall, glowing red eyes, caked up bipedal owl stomping around. But, I mean, that was a common theory for Mothman as well.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
is that, fear inspired a different reality. And so maybe it could have been a large owl for sure. It could have been that they saw an owl and because it was night, it was maybe closer to them than they actually realized, but they saw it as being further away. And so they're like, well, if it's that far away, then it must be 10 feet tall. So some sort of perspective shift is happening. But we do have an image of, and we'll kind of get to it, but I want to show you the image now, like of Joe Nickel, who is a writer for Skeptical Inquirer. We've talked about him before, but he, in an article, kind of drew a picture to compare the Flatwoods Monster to an owl. So you could kind of see how maybe there's a little mix up here. What you thinking?
I see it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You want to describe it? Owl up on a branch?
It's like half of it is an owl on a low branch, and the other half is like the whole body of said thing. But there's a bush behind the branch, so that's what they're thinking extends the rest of the body.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Like maybe the owl was perched on top of a thing. Like,
hasn't there been multiple sightings though?
There have one, the other. So we have obviously the main one, the Maze group, and then the next one was a few days prior, and that was just a dark silhouette. They didn't get a good look at it. They just saw a fireball, and then they saw the silhouette of a monster, and then the second one, which happened the next night, was very similar in that it was a 10-foot tall monster with claws that scraped their car.
The main difference is that one had a reptilian head.
And that's true. And it was also reptilian.
Damn, these sightings, as cohesive as some of it is, like with the children, kind of all over the place.
I feel like the second one, like the one that happened on September 13th, might be an exaggerative claim based on the event before. But I don't know. Did they know about each other?
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Did they know? And so at that point, it's like, I too am experiencing this. I mean, like, unless this owl is always constantly chilling on a bunch of different branches that are a couple feet off the air with a bush behind it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But metallic.
I mean, if it's like a was it like a white owl, like a gray owl, maybe. You know what I mean? Did it just freshly kill something too? Like,
ooh,
you know? Like, if it's like gray or white, sure, maybe the moon is shining on it and then there's like a metallic glow to it or something.
Some like iridescent feathers or something.
Yeah, the 10-foot thing is the hard part. There ain't no 10-foot owls.
Well, big hoot is what I'm going to call them. So I'm trying to think about it. I mean, the drawing looks like the face of a barn owl. The roughness of the leftmost drawing could indicate kind of the feathers texture. But I'm definitely caught at the 10-foot tall and hovering of it all. And the light, the flashing red light. Anyway, that's just my initial reaction. But kind of to break it all down, owls' eyes do reflect light, and that was one of the common things, that they were shining of a bright orange light. And when the group first saw this creature, perhaps owl, they didn't see it until the flashlight was on it, at which point the eyes then started to glow. It's not like they were glowing in the dark without a source of light. They only glowed as soon as the flashlight hit the eyes. Therefore,
that's the
kind of to me, reflection based. The owl talons could explain the claw-like arms of the monster. If you've ever seen as well, like an owl has pretty long, slender legs.
Yeah, they do.
That then have sharp claws. And so we talk about a few of the things that the owl doesn't have, but there's a few things here that are, to me, pretty centric to the initial eyewitness accounts. The shape of the owl sitting on a branch could explain a lot of it. It's the 10-foot tall part of it all that, unless you're in the environment, like seeing how it sat on the branch, or maybe it was on top of like a metallic canister of some kind. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the rough part.
And the smell.
I mean, for me, the smell could be like a carcass or something like that.
Yeah.
Just like, sure. It's just, I don't know how you describe an owl being 10 foot tall. That's the hard part. Well, consistently seeing said owl that's 10 foot tall. That's the one where I'm like, but if multiple people are saying that they're seeing something 10 foot tall, I don't know. Was the first one behind a bush and then just then it spread, and so people are automatically expecting to see something so tall, nefarious. I don't know.
I think Joe Nickel, again, the writer for Skeptical Inquirer, has a pretty good answer as far as like the flash of light. Because so far we've talked about the talons and the eyes. We still have the unknown of the smell and the dress, but I think you might be onto something with, a potential corpse. Owls are usually hunting small rodents and small prey that they eat whole, as opposed to large carcasses, but I want to keep that on the table. And then as far as the light goes, Joe Nickel wrote about it saying, well, there was a meteor visible in multiple states at that same time, on that night. And so it stands to reason that maybe all these individuals saw the flash of light from the meteor and then happened to stumble their way into this setting where they saw an owl wrong. And then it created this perfect storm to create this story. But that's the kind of conclusion that the Air Force came up with.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a wild series of events that connected to each other in order to make that happen.
I mean, it's a lot of things that have to happen to make this all come together.
Yeah.
But I guess without those things having come together, we'd never be talking about it,
True. And I mean, all kinds of things align just at the perfect moment in time. To give certain things. I mean, look at Northern Lights,
True.
A number of things that come together for that to happen, And
Absolutely.
Sure, it's like predictable and more frequent than other things, but that's just the way the world is.
Or even like total eclipses.
Yeah.
Very extremely rare.
Extremely rare.
And the only place that we know that it happens, because the moon is, from our perspective, the same size as the sun, because it is, I don't know what the distances are anymore off the top of my head, but it is like just perfectly far away enough that it looks the same size in the sky, so it can perfectly block it out and create this really magical moment that is a total solar eclipse. But I mean, it is weird. A lot of things had to come together. But I think you're right that sometimes that's just how things happen, because as far as 300 miles away that night, people were seeing a meteor as far as Baltimore. And in the same article, Nickel actually drew what we talked about here, this drawing of the owl next to the Flatwoods Monster, to kind of show how, being in the environment in the dark could lead you to see this. A spotlight of a flashlight could illuminate the owl, leaving a bush or some sort of shrub below it dark, and the reflection of the light off the leaves could have made it look metallic, especially if you're afraid and you turn to run away right away. Like, there's a lot of things that could lead to you seeing it wrong.
Most definitely. I mean, look, growing up, even to right now, you stick me in a dark place, I'm gonna see some stuff that's not really there, and that's just because you start to, your mind likes to see shapes and patterns, and so
100%, or there's something there.
Yeah, or there's something there, and then that part, you just hope you're, when you're throwing your fist in the air, you're just shadow boxing. You're not really hitting something. So
true.
It's the 10-foot thing. That's the thing that kind of makes it such an unsolved. I mean, obviously, none of these are all mysteries, right? It's very rarely that we cover something that's solved. But that's the type of thing on here that makes you go, but how? How does that, how can I connect that to everything else? I don't think you can quite do it.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting is one of the wrinkles to the theory. There was an expert writer for the Pittsburgh Press, Ivan T. Anderson. Now, he claimed what the group saw that night could not have been a meteor because of the way it, quote, maneuvered around hills, stopped in the air, and landed vertically, end quote. So this was the first we read about this movement of the fire in the sky. This isn't some sort of like provable claim, but it is at least something else that's out there that we wanted to collate. I think it's a meteor, and I think it's an owl. And I think owls are terrifying and spooky and dangerous. Cuff these owls.
Yeah, I know why you think it's an owl. I mean, I think it was a meteor, and it just is coincidence with the owl. And then from there, like a wild story got reported, and that was what people were thinking in their head. And that's kind of like the mindset that everyone was in, and they just ran with it.
100%. 100%. To kind of button it all up, as much as I believe the owl theory, it is still compelling to a lot of people that the stories, the drawings, everything that's coming out of the groups that saw this stuff that night maintained, and that they are similar to one another, and that to them points to some level of validity or truth behind it. Whether it is an owl or not, what they experienced something or a bunch of somethings that night. Some people disbelieve that even. They say, well, maybe it's just a level of memory conformity that does happen when you hear something enough, or, we've talked about the peer study where 10 people are doing a panel and one of them is the actual test subject and everybody else is told to agree on the wrong answer. Even that one person sometimes, or majority of the time, conforms to the wrong answer.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit different. It's not a one-for-one comparison, but the idea that memories can stick in your head and you can have false memories is 100% something that can happen. Either way, I think this is a fascinating case, and I'm still intrigued by the smell. I don't know if I want to put a lot of stock in the reptilian part of the Snitovskys eyewitness accounts, but the smell and the imprints in the ground are either fear-heightened symptoms or evidence of something having been there, and I'm just desperate for that actual answer. That's why we do this podcast.
Yeah, that's why we do it. I like that we're hung up on different things. You're hung up on the smell, I'm hung up on the height, and equally so, just hung up, a little bit, switched on each individual thing. But I love cryptids.
Jillian, what are you hung up on?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Do you believe it, or do you think it was an owl?
I get this strange feeling that it was an owl.
Strange feeling that it was just a regular old owl.
Yeah. Yeah.
This time,
I don't know. Even if it's a mundane answer, I still love me a good story and the good chunk of the unknown.
Well, I love just like I said, I love cryptids in general, right? Like, it's creatures. What does this creature do? What is it like? What's the shape? What's the tendencies of this creature? How did we just find it, see it, discover it? I mean, yeah, so I'm all about it.
I love how many cryptids there are, and one of my favorites has to be skunk ape. You really start to ask yourself, what is the origin behind this? Are these
Seems so smelly?
right?
Why the lima beans?
Why the lima beans, dude?
Why?
Butter beans way better. And I'm almost wondering if there's some sort of societal reflection in these cryptids. Does it say something about the time or the people or the culture that created them, and maybe either their latent fears, or I don't know. Like, I'm just very curious if there's an attachment that you could make to culture, because there's a strange assortment of cryptids all around the world, and then some are like identical, like Bigfoot and Yeti, and there's a lot of
They're close
big
to each
feeted
other.
apes. 100%. But yeah, that's been the Flatwoods Monster, a fascinating conflation of events in an even more fascinating area, a hotspot of cryptids, aliens, and other just eerie phenomenon.
Well, I love cryptids, man. I just do. I do. So whenever we do another one, it's always going to be a treat. You know, maybe there's some space cryptids out there, but then again, we haven't really explored space. I don't know. If there's like an astronaut that came back, I was like, I saw this cryptid or something like that. That'd be cool.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, water cryptids.
Water cryptids.
Those are a little bit more terrifying.
Well, that's when you find out that one of the theories is catfish.
Yeah. Swallow you whole, man.
They'll swallow you whole. Listen, we've had the old battle of the owl versus the catfish, which is more terrifying. Listen, it needs to be leveled. Both are terrifying.
Yeah.
It's just true that the owl is slightly more terrifying, and that's just okay. You know, silent, deadly.
I'll take a swing at an owl, man. My swing is not going to be great in the water. I'll tell you right now. I hear
T-pose.
Whoo, I'm swinging. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm throwing roundhouse kicks in the air. Catfish, I'll never see it coming.
Never see it coming. That's why you always got to swim with your arms out. All right, Task Force, swim with them arms out. Swing at the sky at night. You never know what's going to happen to you. Thank you guys so much for listening to another wonderful episode of Red Web. If you want to support us directly, you can do so again at patreon.com/redweb. Get this show ad-free, support us directly, a bunch of other exclusive goodies just for you all there. And Fredo, with that, I will see you next Monday for another mystery.